Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Dominika Wojcieszek, and I am here as a board member of the European Marine Science Educators Association. I will start sharing my screen now. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now. So like I said, I am here as the board member of the European Marine Science Educators Association, and I am also currently the head of education at the Gdynia Aquarium, which is part of the National Marine Fisheries Research Institute in Poland. First of all, welcome and thank you for joining us here today at the Blue Schools in the Baltic Sea session of the EU4Ocean Baltic Sea event. Thanks for joining us and to hear and to learn about the marine education and ocean literacy in the Baltic Sea, and also to learn how to bring Blue Schools and marine education into your school or into your region. As part of this brief introduction, I would like to tell you why should we teach about the Baltic Sea. If you attended maybe some other sessions during the Baltic Sea event, or if you know anything about the ocean, maybe you've already heard the term ocean literacy. If you haven't, please do not be confused by the fact that I just jumped from Baltic Sea to ocean literacy. This is actually something that I often encounter as a marine educator in the Baltic region, that we often consider ocean and sea two very different and very distinct things. And this is not entirely wrong, but it's also not entirely right to see Baltic Sea as very separate from the ocean. This concept of ocean literacy, in the simplest terms, is basically understanding the ocean's influence on us and our influence on the ocean. And the concept itself was developed more than 15 years ago in the US and is based on, as you can see, 7 ocean literacy principles. And I will not talk about all of them, but I would like to start with principle number 1 that states that Earth has one big ocean with many features. And this becomes easier to understand when we look at the map of the world and see that continents are in fact islands on this one big ocean that we also in ocean literacy often refer to as the global ocean, as a distinction to sort of describe that this is this one big ocean that covers our globe. And Baltic is no different in that. It is connected to the rest of the global ocean. So from our standpoint, from the standpoint of science and ocean literacy, Baltic is part of this one big ocean. And so ocean literacy also applies to the Baltic. But at the same time, Baltic is very different from the rest of the global ocean because, as I said, we have one global ocean with many different features. And Baltic is a very different feature of the global ocean, because this is a very unusual sea. When I teach about the Baltic in my work at the aquarium, one of the first things that I like to say or teach about the Baltic Sea and its characteristics is that it is an inland sea. It is surrounded by land from almost every side except for the western part, where it is connected to the North Sea through the narrow and shallow Danish Straits. That's what we call this region. And that very fact that Baltic is surrounded by land determines other very specific characteristics of the Baltic Sea. First of all, it's a brackish sea, which means it has the water in the Baltic Sea has low salinity. As you can see on this map here, the salinity of the Baltic usually is not higher than 30 per mils. The average salinity of the North Sea or the ocean in general is 35, but in the Baltic it never goes above 30, and the 30 and 20 per mils is only in the Danish Straits. As soon as we pass the Danish Straits and we start moving into the Baltic proper and other regions, you can see that the salinity drops significantly, and the average salinity is about 7 to 7.5 per mils. And like I said, it is brackish water, and that, of course, will influence marine life, but I will talk about it in a second. Another very important feature of the Baltic Sea is that this is a very shallow sea with average depth of 50 meters, which really compared to the rest of the ocean is not much. It is also a very young sea. It started forming 12,000 years ago when the last ice sheet retreated from this region of the world. It has no tides, which actually is not entirely true, but the tides are so insignificant we don't even notice them, you know, as just citizens watching the sea from the shore. It is also naturally divided into smaller regions because there are underwater sills, so like ridges that separates like Gulf of Finland and Botnian Bay and Botnian Sea and Baltic proper and Gulf of Riga from each other, which basically means that, you know, mixing of water is not that easy in the Baltic. And one of the very important features to me is that Baltic has a very large catchment area. Catchment area, if you're not familiar, is the area from which all the rivers discharge into that particular body of water. And the catchment area of the Baltic Sea is 1.6 million square kilometers, and it is 4 times larger than the Baltic itself. And that, of course, affects our small, lovely Baltic. What does this mean for the Baltic Sea? Well, first of all, it's unique. It's a unique ecosystem, a beautiful ecosystem. Like I mentioned, we have low salinity, and that affects marine life. So a lot of marine species, well, all of the marine species that live in the Baltic Sea, they had to develop adaptations to survive here. They had to adapt to this low salinity. And many of them were not able to do that. So we have less species of marine species living in the Baltic Sea compared to, for example, North Sea. At the same time, some freshwater species are able to, for example, survive in waters, you know, close to Poland on the Polish coast. So that makes it interesting. Not all of them are able, for example, to procreate in the Baltic, but they, you know, they come here to forage to get food. So that really makes it unique. A lot of animals, just like cod, when they live in the Baltic Sea, they are at the limits of their physiological tolerance. So they cannot go any further. They really, the salinity for them is so low, they can really barely make it. Also, those features of the Baltic Sea that I described to you before mean that Baltic is under severe anthropogenic pressure. I mentioned to you the large catchment area. First of all, it is 4 times the size of the Baltics. Second of all, we have 85 million people living in the catchment area. This means that 85 million people affect the Baltic, and they don't have to live on the coast. They don't have to travel to the Baltic to have their impact on the Baltic. They don't even have to live in the country that has access to the Baltic Sea to influence the Baltic, just because they influence the Baltic through the rivers. So Baltic is under anthropogenic pressure because of dispersed human activities within the catchment area, but also due to human activity on the Baltic Sea, like overexploitation of marine resources. Of course, we want to use transport, maritime transport. We have tourism along the coast. We want to eat seafood. I told you that the Baltic is surrounded by land on almost every side, and we have 9 countries on this land. I hope we have representatives of all the 9 countries here today, but this means we do a lot, and we influence the Baltic a lot. And last but not least, and I'm just scratching the surface here talking about those problems that the Baltic is facing, but because of those very specific conditions that describe the Baltic, Baltic also have high sensitivity to climate change. So all those things that I'm talking about are usually amplified by the climate crisis we're facing now. So the animals that live at the limits of their tolerance, of their physiological tolerance in the Baltic, the climate change makes it even more difficult because the water may be warmer, because the inflow of salty water from the North Sea to the Baltic is affected by climate change, because eutrophication caused by people that causes more and more algae, often harmful algae, blooming and growing in the Baltic Sea. This is again intensified by different weather patterns, by warm weather. And so those difficult conditions for marine life are amplified by climate change. And the climate change causes hydrological changes in hydrological conditions. So it's really not easy for the Baltic to be a nice sea. And of course, whatever we do as humans, whatever pressure we put on the Baltic will feed back to us. And just to give you an idea what happens just recently, or what are the effects of human activity around the Baltic and in the Baltic Sea, is that, for example, we have increasing harmful algal blooms. And this may seem like something that doesn't affect you, but if you are traveling to the Baltic coast in the summer to spend your vacation here, and we have a harmful algal bloom on the Polish coast, this means you should not be swimming in the water, you cannot practice water sports. We have fish population collapse, which affects fishermen, but it also affects fish that we would like to eat when we are on the coast, or not even on the coast, because we can transport the fish from the sea, more inland. And the general ecosystem decline that makes the ecosystem less attractive. So murky water with not much life in it is just not attractive for tourists. And all those feedbacks from the Baltic, all those effects on top of that become an economic consequence. We usually have bad economic consequences that affect not only local communities on the Baltic coast, but that affect whole countries. Because if the whole coast of Baltic, for example, in Poland, is not doing well economically, it will affect the economy of the whole country. So this brings us back to ocean literacy principles that I mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, when I mostly focus on principle 1, but another principle that is personally very important to me is that the ocean and humans are inextricably interconnected. And again, we're talking about the Baltic Sea today, and I think that as Baltic citizens, as people living around the Baltic in coastal communities, but not only, we do know, or we should know, that we are inextricably connected with the Baltic. So I still am a promoter of ocean literacy, but maybe locally we should start talking about Baltic literacy, which would be an understanding of the Baltic's influence on you or on us, and our influence on the Baltic, because understanding of the ocean, or in this case of the Baltic, is essential to comprehending and protecting our planet and actually our lives. So that's why I am so happy that we're meeting here today to learn more about marine education programs that are going strong in the Baltic region. And the first talk that you will hear today will be given by Dr. Joachim Denk from Geomar in Kiel, Germany, and Dr. Tymon Zieliński from Institute of Oceanology in Sopot in Poland. They will talk about the virtual summer school that they organized this summer. And I believe it must have been very interesting, because if you're able to keep kids at home in the summer to learn about the ocean, then I'm sure it was a great program. So without further ado, the floor is yours, or the screen is yours. Thank you so much. And Joachim and Tymon, please go ahead.
Thank you.
So let me just share my screen. First of all, welcome everybody, and we're glad to be here. And I think you should be seeing my screen now. Is that okay? All right. Yes, thanks for the opportunity to present what we're doing. In fact, we weren't only going to talk about the summer school, I'll get back to that later on, but we wanted to introduce some of the things we do in those two places. So I'm from GEOMA in Kiel, and Timon represents the IOPAN, the Institute for Oceanology of the Polish Academy of Sciences in Sopot. And we have different programs for school kids and also different approaches, and I'll quickly run you through those. But to introduce you first to where we are, in Kiel, we are a major research institute on ocean sciences. We are distributed over the two sides of the Kiel Fjord, and you see the Baltic Sea here in the north. And our research at the different locations entails all sorts of things, with about 1,000 members of staff, 500 of which are research scientists from about 40 countries. And the topics we deal with are things like ocean circulation and climate dynamics, which is mainly the interaction between the oceans and the atmosphere. Marine biogeochemistry, that's something we always like to show, the word we like to show to the school kids, because it immediately connects three different school subjects. And what we mean by that is that that here we examine how flows of nutrients, or for example CO2, enter from the atmosphere into the ocean, get taken up by the phytoplankton, and when the plankton is dead, it sinks to the ocean floor, and part of it is remineralized and part goes into the sediment. So this kind of cycle is studied in this section. Then there's the traditional marine ecology, which focuses on things like cold water corals, or the blue mussel, for example, oops, go back one, the blue mussel under the influence of climate change. And finally, we have a large department of geologists and geophysicists that focus on the dynamics of the ocean floor, the way ocean floor is generated at the mid-continental ridges, and then killed, destroyed in the subduction zones at the margins, where it generates volcanism and earthquakes. I'm a bit confused here because I have this thing, this control thing in my image, and can't read it. Oh, here we go. Okay, where do we do this kind of work? Well, our work region is mainly the global ocean, everything that's blue on this screen, with a couple of focus regions. So there's been a lot of work in the Southeast Pacific Ocean, in the tropical Atlantic Ocean, but also in the deep water formation regions off Newfoundland, or sometimes in the Mediterranean. What we don't concentrate on very much is, unfortunately, the Baltic, although we're right next to it, because this task was assigned in Germany to a different institution. So our research scientists mainly use the Baltic to test ideas that apply also to the world ocean. And so we get back to what Dominika has been saying earlier on. The Baltic basically is a part of the world ocean, and many of the things that happen in the world ocean also happen in the Baltic, which you will see in a minute. What kind of topics do our scientists study? There's, for example, the risks and ecological consequences of deep sea mining, where these manganese nodules are being collected, but which might leave traces or permanent damage in the deep sea ecosystem, which is not easily repaired and may take a couple of 100 years to regenerate. Then there's a topic of the role and development of oxygen minimum zones in the ocean. So anything you see on this map in pink or in blue are regions where in depths of about 300 to 500 meters, there's hardly any oxygen, which is in most cases perfectly natural. But due to climate change, these zones seem to be expanding, and that's something we may have to worry about, especially in the context of these upwelling regions of Africa and South America, where another project concentrates on, which may affect the fishing regions in these particularly productive areas. Then there's another big topic, which is called climate engineering, sometimes referred to as hacking the planet. And it involves all sorts of technologies that may be suitable for catching the climate in the last minute. So if we're not able to save enough energy to prevent longer term climate change, engineers are talking about different measures of fixing the climate. So there's things like simple things, planting trees, for example, which most people approve of. More difficult things like putting out sulfur in the upper stratosphere to reflect the sunlight, or to put nutrients into the ocean to generate phytoplankton growth, which in turn takes up more CO2. And all of these techniques may have disadvantages or actual problems. And our scientists are looking at what may be the risks of all these engineering measures. In parallel to this, we've had school programs since about 2003. We're doing school projects with schools for a couple of days or sometimes for a whole school year. We're doing teacher training because most teachers in their educations are not equipped for marine sciences. So together with them, we explore which topics they could include in their teaching if they'd like to. And for this, we also provide them with teaching materials that we came up with. And for particularly interested students, we have summer schools or vacation schools. And we also try to cooperate with the scientific partners or the schools in the countries of our scientific partners wherever this opportunity arises. To give you a quick example how we put science into schools, here's again those oxygen minimum zones. Now, fortunately or unfortunately for the Baltic is also an oxygen minimum zone. Everything you see in green and red are regions in this particular year, 2004, where there was hardly any oxygen at the ocean floor or no oxygen at all. And this has a perfectly natural reason, which you can explore in tank experiments like this, where the students put in the water and build a little topography from sponges out of the kitchen. And then you can study how the heavy North Sea water here in blue fills the deeper basins of the Baltic, where the lighter Baltic Sea water lies on top. And then you can discuss how phytoplankton growth that sinks to the bottom and is digested by bacteria does away with the oxygen near the ocean floor and how the oxygen disappears. And ideally, we have a research scientist who then is able to explain how this simple experiment ties into the larger context of their research. One thing that has been going on for a couple of years now is our Fridays Researchers Club. Actually, it's taking place right now, one floor underneath me, where we usually have about 14 students coming in and working with us on different projects, usually in teams of 2 or maybe alone. And every 4 weeks, we do monitoring of the Kiel Fjord, where we study things like temperature, salinity, oxygen, nitrate, phosphate, and pH, and stuff like this. And over 8 years together with the students, we've now been able to construct time series that the students are also analyzing. Finally, what have we been doing during Corona and the pandemic? Well, we concentrated on virtual projects, and one of those is something that we hope to be able to open up soon. Together with my colleagues in Potsdam, we have this climate change and climate skepticism workshop for teachers, which we're just in the process of opening up. And with that, I'll hand on to Timon, because he has to leave pretty soon.
Thank you very much, Joachim. We have actually in our group, we have a very similar tool for showing the traveling of heavy water into the Baltic Sea. However, ours is twice that big. Hello everybody. I will just concentrate on our flagship activity that is called the Ocean of Changes. You can see myself, Tomasz, Paulina, Alexandra, and Katarzyna from my group in IOPAN, but we also cooperate with Isabella, whom you might have listened to earlier today, who is actually the only educator among all of us, because we are like researchers or past researchers, and we need definitely a lot of support from people who know something about education, and the cooperation goes really nice. We call our activity Ocean of Changes. If you could change the slide, Joachim, please. It's a project that is dedicated to different audiences. It's a year-long project, but it's an ongoing project. And it consists of educational workshops, also international, that we run during the school year, every year, ages 8 to 18. We conclude our workshops for school children with the International Junior Conference, Where the World is Heading. And it happens more or less around the World Oceans Day every year. And we also have the very next day after the junior conference, we have the youth conference for young scientists of all disciplines, also Where the World is Heading. And we have these representatives of every possible discipline. We also have the marine sessions there. Not yet. Another element of the project is the so-called Science Day, which is also an annual event, and we run it in the city center. This year we had an online version, of course. We also have the popular lectures and events, so it keeps us busy, and we need people to work on it. We cooperate with Gdynia Aquarium. We have very nice cooperation with them, and many other institutions. This year we got awarded the logo of the Ocean Decade. You can see it in the left upper side of the slide. So we're very happy about that, because that gives us some sort of like a pat on the shoulder from the people who care. Can I have another one, please? So very shortly about the workshops, because this is like the longest and possibly the most important part of our activities. Normally we run the workshops in the institute, as you can see in the picture. Since last year we've done them online. Once again, we have the learners of ages 8 to 18. Duration is 2.5 hours if it's in person, and if it's the online version, it's 1.5 hours. We ask our teachers, or the teachers who submit their willingness to participate in the workshop, that we want to have willing students. Our experience from previous years is such that if we have just classes that come to the workshop, it's always like 10 out of 30 kids that are fully uninterested, and it sort of makes no sense, because they don't gain much, and as a matter of fact, the group dynamics is pretty much gone. So we have the popular lectures and meetings with all of the students, but for the workshops we prefer to have the willing students, and I'll tell you why in the next slide, please, Joachim. So the workshop is like that we, for the 20 minutes, we have interdisciplinary lectures provided by my colleagues, Isabella, Tomasz, and so forth, giving different aspects of the ocean issues. We do concentrate on climate and ocean mitigation and adaptation actions, because we believe that this is a very important thing. And many kids can actually feel the problem. We stress the importance of sustainable development. So when we talk about the ocean, for example, I mentioned it before in the earlier session today, when we talk about biodiversity, we do not concentrate only on the biology and biological aspects, but we talk about it from the perspective of sustainable development. That means, like, if the biodiversity is in jeopardy, then there are serious social aspects connected to that. For example, the cod disappearing from the Baltic means that people will have to make different choices, and in order to make the different choices, they have to be aware of the fact why they have to do it, and then maybe it makes perfect sense that you go to the market and buy the MSC labeled fish rather than go to the local market and you get fish that you don't really know the history of. So this is one of the examples, but we do not talk about, you know, numbers only in terms of numbers of biodiversity, millions, thousands of species. We have about 3,000 species in the Baltic and so forth. But we discuss a broader aspects of the ocean. And once they get the lectures, they have their time to work on certain actions. Can I have another one, Joachim? So in groups, they're divided into groups, and they have to discuss these issues of the type like what is the best engagement activity type for particular type of communities, what resources they need, what support from what type of organizations do they need, what format is the most effective of their action. They create the outputs of the type that actions for promotion of ocean related issues, and they have to prepare the solutions to be applied. As you can see in the pictures at the end, can I have another one, the next one, please? At the end of the workshop, they have a draft of an action prepared, and they have the depicted target group where the action should be done. Then they have about 2 months to implement the actions. So it's not like we finish work after 2.5 hours or 1.5 online version hours with the students, because they have to actually implement the actions, and they're in constant touch with us if they have questions, problems to discuss, and so forth. So basically, it's an ongoing process. It depends on who they choose to target with their actions. And at the very end, they're all invited, all the groups are invited to join for the conference, where the world is heading, with the report of their actions. The statistics more or less show that it's like 40% of the groups that come back to us. This year we had it with international students from 4 countries, including Morocco. So I think it was a nice success. This picture is from several years ago. Can I have the next ones, please? We also have extra benefits from these workshops for ourselves, because during the workshops we have the very dedicated questionnaires for them, and then we analyze the information. We also analyze the responses that are and the ideas that are provided by the students for the actions, and then the results of the actions. And we actually gathered a lot of material for analysis, and some of that has already been published in scientific papers. There are more to come in the very near future. So it's a win-win situation for us, because we are, as researchers in the institute, we need to publish, make the publications, and beside our scientific publications, we also have the educational and communication type of publications, which are quite easy for us, because basically the kids do half of the work for us, right? And the final one, if I can get, COVID changed a lot. We had to go through these first stages of the problems, because we had only the local kids until the COVID lockdown. But then we recovered from the problem quite quickly, and actually we got some benefits from the COVID situation, because we tailored our workshops to the online version, and all of a sudden we got students from all over Europe. So from becoming a very local activity, we became a pan-European activity. or including the summer school with Joachim, plus one American person, right? So we can say that we are reaching global. We certainly hope that we'll get back to the in-person workshops, because we really fancy them, but at the same time, we are fully aware of the fact that we will continue, and we're happy to continue with an online version of our workshops, and most likely the conference, the annual conference that we will have starting 2022, we will at least have some sort of a hybrid version. And with that, I would like to, the next one, please, Joachim, thank to all of our cooperating institutions. Just like I said, we have lots of good contacts with local teachers, and not only local at the moment, and other initiatives and other institutions that support us. So thank you very much, and back to you, Joachim. I will have to unfortunately leave in 5 minutes, so Joachim will do the best as I know, because he knows how to do it. So I'll disappear in 5 minutes. Sorry, another meeting. It's a bit of a crazy day. So good luck with the rest of the day, and thank you, Joachim, for taking over.
Well, we should be finished in 5 minutes anyway, and I'll try to get there. A quick rundown of the summer school we did this year, which was 10 days in July with 21 participants from 3 countries. And the topics also went from the Baltic Sea and Black Sea to plastics in the ocean, fisheries, the role of computer models in prediction of climate change, adaptation to climate change, up to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it was a mixed program of science and sustainability. And we also had social evenings for the students to get to know each other. We had partners in this. So apart from our 2 research institutions, there was the Alfred Wegener Institute in Helgoland in Germany. There was Isabella's Today We Have NGO and the Mare Nostrum in Romania. And we had financial support by the German-Polish Youth Office, which we greatly appreciated. To give you an idea of how we worked, this was our schedule. The green ones are what we called lecture days, which we introduced with the plenary lecture on a topic like plastics. Then we sent out the students to do something outside, like collect samples and analyze them. And at the end of the day, we met again in the plenary and discussed their findings. On the yellow days, the students were free to make their own schedule. They were always working in mixed international teams. So on the green days, we mixed the teams, and every day completely new, so they get to know each other. On the yellow days, they were in fixed teams, and they had a program that went through the 2 weeks with a presentation at the end of the 2 weeks. And this program basically was pick a task from one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and research, find out, explain the background. Why would UN make this topic a specific target, and what is the problem they are trying to address, and what science is there to support this fact. Then they discussed what actions are being taken on an international, political and economic scale, and what actions could they take themselves on the regional or local scale in their communities or schools. And finally, there was the question, could there be potential conflicts with other SDGs? For example, if you propose to abolish fisheries altogether, would this be in conflict with no hunger? And how would you resolve that? The students chose 4 topics. There was marine pollution, there was ocean acidification, protecting ecosystems, and climate change education. And they presented those at the end of the summer school in, well, more or less long presentations. And when we asked them if they liked it, well, first of all, we asked them, what about English? Was this a problem? In most cases, it wasn't. In some cases, it actually was, and we noticed that during the workshop. All of them liked that the course was international, and all of them, most of them, except for 2 undecided ones, said that they learned a lot, and they would apply again for this kind of course anytime, even if it was taking place only online. But they also said that they did not have enough opportunities to talk to other students because time was too short for that. And of course, they thought, as we expected, that something like this would even be better if you could do it with everybody in the same place. And this is the reason why next year we want to go to somewhere with a non-virtual summer school, where we get everybody together in one place and explore the coast and have them do live tasks outside. Probably again with the support of the German-Polish Youth Office, at least we'll apply for that, and probably in this constellation of German, Polish, and Romanian students. And with that, we'll finish. If you're interested in any of these programs, which we now presented, just contact us or look at our websites, and we'll be happy to answer your questions either now or if you send us an email. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm saying goodbye to everybody. Have a good day. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Same for you, Joachim. Also, thank you for this very interesting presentation. And oh my God, I wish I was a young student at this time that I could participate in this.
Well, you would have had to sit at home for 2 weeks and just stare at the screen, except for some parts where you could have gone out. But it was amazing how well they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible how motivated they are. And yeah, also this seems to be very effective and impactful on a student if you engage in such an activity. So are there any questions? You can raise your hand or speak. They are not, well, you have their email addresses, and thank you very much for coming and sharing these great projects.
You're welcome.
Well, next we have Nathalie van Isacker. Nathalie is from EMATnet, and she will present how you can use the Atlas, European Atlas of the Seas in your classroom.
Yes, thank you, Evie. Can you hear me? Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, great, fantastic. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. So I am going to talk about the European Atlas of the Seas and how this tool can help you in your work in school, as well as in the projects that you may be developing with your students. So when you are looking at the ocean, there may be a lot of questions that you want to address as a teachers, but your students may also have a lot of questions. And these can be very diverse, like what type of litter can be found at sea and what can we do about it? Or what is the closest river to where I live? How far is it and how is it linked to the sea? Where is coastal erosion taking place? Does it affect us? Or how do we monitor the ocean? What kind of instruments are used to collect information at sea? Where are they developed? Also questions about the blue economy. How many tons of fishery products are caught per year in my country? So many different questions that may be addressed. And maps are a great tool to find information to answer these questions. And if these maps are interactive, then it's even more useful because you can really zoom in on the areas that you are interested in. So for the Baltic, for example, but even zoom in closer in some areas of the Baltic. And there is a lot of data that is being collected by scientists, but how do we get access to them? So how can we as teachers, how can students, how can we as citizens access all of this information and data that is being collected and analyzed by scientists, either through sampling at sea or through the collection of data from oceanographic instruments or from satellites. And this is really the objective of the European Atlas of the Seas. So it's a bit like a window on the ocean. The objective is really to be able to show in a fun and interactive way and user-friendly way for people who do not have a scientific background, how to get access to this data. So what is it? It's a digital interactive learning tool that you can access online on the internet, and it includes marine maps and interactive oceanic information that cover many different topics. Overall, there are 285 interactive maps, but the good thing is that you can combine them. And I will show you how you can do that. And by combining data, you can really get more information and answer some of the more complex questions that you may want to address. All of the information is easily accessible. You don't need to log in or you don't need to create an account. You just need to go to the internet, European Atlas of the Seas.eu, and you directly have access to the maps. And the information is available in 24 official languages of the European Union. So that means that you can see the information in your mother language, but if you're a language teacher, you can also use it in your classroom to maybe, for example, ask students to do their own research in the atlas and then make a presentation either in their mother language or in another language they are learning. And I guess that if you are working on projects also that include students from different languages, they can each look at the information in the different languages. And maps can also be exported from the atlas and included in PowerPoints or in Word documents, for example. So that means that if you're a teacher and you're preparing a lesson, you can really export the map to illustrate your lesson and include it directly in your lesson. If students are preparing a PowerPoint on a thematic that they're researching, they can also export the map and include it in their PowerPoint. But it can also be used by other people like journalists or blue economy professionals that also want to communicate on the oceans. So a lot of topics, as I was saying, you have information about sea life, about nature, sea bottom. You have a lot of information also about the blue economy, like fishing, aquaculture, tourism, transport, energy. You also have some information about employment in the blue economy. So that means that you can use it in many different classes. It can be geography, it can be science, it can be language, it can be social science, it can be economics. You can really use it in many different classes, and you can also use it as an interdisciplinary tool to discuss topics, looking at it from different angles. Of course, when students are looking for information, it's important that they know what they are looking at, that they have this idea of where this information is coming from and who's managing the website that they're looking at. And to answer this, the European Atlas for the Sea is an initiative of the European Commission, DG Mare. So what is DG Mare? It's the Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries of the European Commission. And since 2017, the Atlas is managed by the European Marine Observation and Data Network Secretariat. So in short, it's EMODNet. And what is EMODNet? It's a network of organizations who work to collect data at sea and to make it available to everyone and interoperable. That means that everyone can use the data that is being collected. With this idea, collected once, used many times by very many people. Where does the data come from? It's coming from most part the EMODNet, so this network. It's also coming from DG Mare and other services of the European Commission, the European Environmental Agency, Eurostat, Copernicus Marine for data that's coming from satellites, and Joint Research Center. So what does it look like and how does it work? As I was saying, very easy. You go to the internet, you type the address, and you will get this screen. If you click on the menu, so this is the icon with the 3 lines, you will have different options that you can choose from. So at the top here, you can choose the language. If you click on this, you will have all of the languages, and I will show you in a minute. Under Atlas Overview, you have a list of all of the map layers and the descriptions and data provider. So this is really useful. Every time that you're looking at a map, you know who provided the data, and you get more information on the data provider. And from here, you can also access the Teacher's Corner. And in the Teacher's Corner, you can find exercises that are linked to the maps. So for example, we will ask a series of questions, and the students can find the answers in the maps. We also have quiz, we have a treasure hunt, so different activities for different age groups. On the Teacher's Corner, you can also find copies of workshops that we have done in the past, and some recordings also of workshops we have done in the past. And if you click on the question mark here, then you have a video tutorial that explains how you can use the Atlas. So as I was saying, once you click on language, you can really choose any of the languages, and you can change language in the process also. So if you want to switch from one language to the other, you can also. Once you have done that, and you know what type of information you are looking for, or you're just curious and you're diving in to see what you can learn, you have three possibilities. You can go under Predefined Maps. These are a series of maps that consist of different map layers that we have combined according to thematics. You can have map stories. This is a selection of maps where we have given a bit more information with text. And then you have your own search area, which is under layer. And there you can just scroll down and find the map layers that corresponds to what you're looking for. Next to each one, you have an information icon, so you can get the description. And you can also see if these are new map layers or if they are updated, or if there are some exercises connected to these map layers in the Teacher's Corner, or some stories. And you can select 1, 2, 3 maps and decide to combine them. So here we have an example. We have selected 2 map layers on algae production facilities. So we have macroalgae and microalgae. Once you have done that, you close this window and the map will appear. You will see under layer the 2 map layers that you have selected. You can shift them, so you can change the order if you want to see one better than the other. And if you click on the information icon, you can read the description of the map layer, and you have information about the data provider. So in this case, we know that the information is coming from the EMODnet. And if you click on EMODnet, you have access to the EMODnet websites. If these were not the layers you want to see, you can clear all layers and start again to look for other layers. If those were the maps that you want to see, then you want to see the legend, of course. And there you have a description of all of the symbols in the map to be able to understand that map in all of its details. And as I was saying, you can zoom in and you can zoom out just by clicking on the plus or the minus. And if you click on Get Info, then you can click on any of these facilities to have more information about the facilities. And you have also some tools that you can use in the Atlas. As I was saying, you can export or print the maps. To do that, you need to go into the menu, click on Advanced Feature, and there you have 2 types of tools. You have the print tool and you have the measure tool. Once you have activated those 2, the icons will appear here and you will be able to use the tools. So for the printing tool, it really allows you to customize the map. You can give it a title, you can choose the scale, and then you just click on export and you will be able to have the map in PDF or JPEG. You also have the option of exporting the map also by clicking on this icon. And by doing this and following the instruction, you can embed it in an online article. So if you're writing a blog, for example. Then you have the measures tool, and that may be really interesting for you as a teacher, because using the measure tool, you can find out the geographical coordinates of a specific location. So for example, if I want to know where this facility is located, I can click on the measure tool, click here, select the unit, and then click on the facility. A red flag will appear, and it will give me the coordinates. So you can use this if you're teaching geography, for example, to ask students to find a place or to use it in an exercise, maybe even a treasure hunt, to be able to find something in the map. And this allows you students to find their way in the map. You can also calculate the distance. So you can calculate distances between two locations in the Baltic, or between a place, location within the sea and the coast, for example. And you can also calculate areas. And we'll see a little bit later on that, for example, we have a map on Natura 2000 sites, which have been designated to protect natural habitats and species. You can use this tool to draw the area of this Natura 2000 site and calculate its area. All of this is explained in the tutorial, as I was saying. So it's a 6-minute tutorial. So very quickly, you can learn how to use the atlas. So in summary, the atlas can be used to develop students' competences, like how to read and understand a map, what the different components of a map is, how you can find information with a map. You can also read and understand graphics. We have a lot of marine litter maps that include graphics. So we really combine maps and graphics. They can learn how to create a map using different layers, which is a start already to using geographical information systems. They can calculate distances and areas, and also learn how to search for information and work in different languages. And it also helps expand student knowledge in different disciplines, as I was saying before. And of course, and this is of particular interest, if you're applying to become a European Blue School, you can use it in projects to be able to find information, to support the work of the project, or to find partners. So here are a few examples of maps that you can use. For example, we have a map on marine installation. So if you're working on a project and you would like to know if there's a marine biology station nearby or a coastal observatory, then you can use this map and you can click on the installation to find more information about that installation. As I was saying, we have this map about Marine Natura 2000 site, and you can see which are the Marine Natura 2000 sites in the area that you are studying or that you are working in. You also have fisheries local action groups that develop sustainable fisheries locally. So this may also be potential partners that you want to contact to see how you can work on food from the ocean. Or have also shellfish farms or seawater finfish farms. So again, you can just zoom in the area, click on the different icons and see who they are. And if you remember, one of the questions that I mentioned at the beginning was, how do we know what we know about the ocean? How do we monitor the ocean? We have a series of maps on oceanographic instruments, and I've selected 3 here: underwater gliders, drifting buoys, and arcofloats. They appear in different colors, so you can see where they are deployed in the Baltic Sea. And if you click on one of them, then you can get more information. You can know what is being measured and who is doing the measurements. And also what's really interesting about these maps is that they're near real-time information. So some of these instruments dive in, and when they come back to the surface, they send information to the satellites. And so if you click on them, you may actually have the data itself near real time. So as I was saying, combining map layers can be very interesting. And this is an example of how maps can be combined. This is a map of population density in Europe, combined with a map of coastline changes. And here you can see, for example, you have highly populated areas, but the coasts are stable. So this is not a concern, but where you see red dots, you have coastal erosion. So you can look at this with the students and combine this with other trusted information to understand what this means for the people who live there and what can be done about it. And also very useful if you're looking for partners is the map of the different communities of EU4Ocean. So schools appear here in green, and you can see in blue platform members. So these are NGOs, academics, industries who are part of the platform member and are working on ocean literacy. And you also have in orange the young ocean advocates who are passionate about the ocean, are from 16 to 30-year-olds and have developed their own project about the ocean. And so you can zoom in your area to see who they are, and maybe you can get in contact with them. And so here we focus on the Baltic. These maps are regularly updated. And now we have heard yesterday some young ocean advocates that we will be adding to the map. And we really look forward to adding more schools for the Baltic. So we hope you will be the next pieces of the puzzle that will add to this map. And this is what I wanted to say. We have a Twitter account where you can learn more about the Atlas. We highlight some maps, we highlight some tools. Every Friday, we publish a map of the week that you can read to learn more. And if you have any questions, I'll be really happy to answer them. You can send me an email at this address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathalie. That was excellent, as always. I really enjoyed the selection of maps you showed as well.
There are a lot more, so really dive in to see, because this is just a small selection. There's so much more in there.
True, true. And especially when you say on Twitter, you post many, many interesting maps. So any questions that you wish to ask now to Nathalie? If they are not, Nathalie, thank you again very much. And we will continue with Bjorn Karlström. Bjorn is from the Marine Biological Lab of Gothenburg in Sweden, and he will present to you the virtual project, a project on biofilms and measuring biodiversity, which came from Sweden, but has now spread out all over the world, I think. Bjorn?
Yeah. So I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for letting me speak. I know that my colleagues in Virtue have presented this project last year, I think. Since then, it's happened a few things, and I'm going to present the new Virtue. So I hope that maybe some of you know about the Virtue project. I'm going to talk about citizen science and how to use the Virtue project to monitor and detect invasive alien species in the Baltic. So from last year, you might recognize this slide. The Virtue project has been running in Sweden. It started at the University of Gothenburg in the 90s, and it's all about putting these CD disks in the ocean and then wait a few months and then exploring what's growing on the disks. So there are lots of biodiversity. There are clams and barnacles and lots of things. And that's been running for a long time now, and pupils have been reporting all the findings about biodiversity. And this is, as you said, it's been spread around the world. So it's in many different places. As you can see up here, the Virtue project but funded by the Erasmus funding and expanded to many countries. I'm not sure how many countries it's active in right now. I'm going to talk about invasive alien species. It's, as you know, a major threat to biodiversity. In the last report from IPES, the biodiversity panel, they listed the 5 top risks or threats to biodiversity, and invasive alien species is one of them. So researchers and authorities need help to monitor and report these invasive species in order to be able to maybe do something about them. So we've also had a school project that's been running now since 2017 on the Swedish West Coast. It's called Invasive Species on the Swedish West Coast. We focused on a small area from the beginning. We involved lots of schools, 15 schools last year, and then from that we have more now. We are more than 35 trained teachers, 2,000 pupils have gone through the project, and we have at least 5 active researchers. And we just received money to expand this project also to the Swedish East Coast into the Baltic. So it will be a national project in Sweden, and I hope that maybe we can find some way to collaborate, and that's the whole aim of my presentation. Let me just present the project. It's very simple in its outline. We do teacher trainings, teach them about the problem with invasive species. We involve active researchers that study invasive alien species. And after that, we take the pupils and the teachers, go out in the field with the researchers, and we look for invasive species and record them. And sometimes we also go to schools and do visits. Sorry. We have selected on the Swedish West Coast a few species that we're looking for, so to concentrate it and not look for every species. And we have the round goby, the Asian shore crabs, the Pacific oyster, and the Australian tube worm. So those species we have concentrated on, and we can teach the pupils and the teachers about it. We use different techniques. For the round goby, we just go out and fish. For the crabs, we use different techniques. We count the distribution of the oysters, and then we use these. We have used these panels for the tube worms, but we've changed that to the virtue discs now. The whole idea and the center of everything is that we let people, students and researchers work together. That's the aim of one of the aims of it. And active researchers take part in this, and they teach, and they work together with the pupils and students. And a field day can look like this. We bring some of the species with us, they can look at them, and then we go out and have different stations and try to catch and find these species that we are looking for. We have built an own web page. So these are just small screenshots from that web page. And from the beginning, we had our own reporting system where they could report all the findings, but we've changed that. We have small videos that shows how you do different techniques. In this case, try to do a random counting of Pacific oysters. Yeah. So that's just an example. But now, and this is in Swedish, I'm sorry for that, the Swedish authorities have made this really nice reporting system or app or web page so we can report invasive species in Sweden. It ends up in the art portal, where when researchers have verified the sightings, and then it's open for everybody to use and do research from. And one of the findings of this project is that citizen science, of course, can make very important contributions to research, and it's very important that the participants, the kids and the pupils in this case, feel that they are involved and really generates real data that's being used by the authorities and researchers. And just to show you this, on the left is how we, during 4 years, from 2017, 18, 19, and 20, were able to discover this quite quick and fast expansion of these two crabs, the invasive Asian shore crabs, and the authorities have really used our data, and then we tell this the kids, so they get feedback that you were actually helped researchers and authorities to discover that these crabs are spreading. We'll soon be finished. That was Swedish west coast, and of course there are different species. We heard about the unique ecosystem of the Baltic Sea earlier today. There are other species, of course, in the Baltic Sea that are invasive. So far, when we are starting to expand this into the Swedish part of the Baltic Sea, the Swedish east coast, we look for the round goby. We have discovered that the white-fingered mud crab is spreading, and also the Australian tube worms. All these three species, I think, will be spreading in the Baltic. Probably you know other species, and we can include others. And these are just how it looks right now in Sweden. So the round goby, of course, on the west coast, but quite a bit into the Baltic Sea. It can also go into fresh water, so there will be no problem for the round goby to colonize the whole Swedish coast. And I know that in many other parts of the Baltic, it's a big problem. The white-fingered mud crab has shown up in 3 different locations in Sweden, and just this summer we had several reports. And so far, the Australian tube worm is just on the very south of Sweden in Malmö harbor, but it's expected to spread further into the Baltic. So that's my aim of this, is that together I would like us to work together, other schools, researchers from all the other countries, to find out more about the invasive species of the Baltic Sea. So that's quickly my presentation.
Yes, great, Björn. Indeed, the project has changed in a year's time. And did you share your email address? Or you can share it in the chat in case. Yeah. In case we have already somebody interested to collaborate in this project.
Yeah.
So if there are any questions, I would like to hear them now.
Yes, I have one. I raised my hand. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, great project. I've heard about it before. Yeah, because the round goby and the mud crab, we have it in Poland. The round goby is documented since 1991. So I think it would be great if, you know, like schools on the Polish coast could take part in this kind of project to sort of document the invasive species. And just my question is, like, you have your network of scientists that collaborate with you. So let's say if schools from other parts of the Baltic Sea would like to take part in it, they will collaborate with your network, or would they have to find their own researchers to help them identify what's going on?
Well, that's a good question. And I've also been thinking about this, but of course they can work with our network in the beginning or the whole time, and then maybe we expand also the network, but they are welcome. All schools are welcome to work with our researchers, that network that we have. So that's just interesting to get data from the whole Baltic.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, so I shared my email in the chat, so please contact me if you know anyone that's interested to take part in this and develop it further. Thank you.
Yes, I certainly will distribute this question within the network of Blue Schools to see if individual schools are interested to do this, and especially also within our partners network. Yeah. So next one up, Dominika. It is you again.
Yes, it's me again. Thanks for having me again. And now, as an educator from the Gdynia Aquarium, I will be talking about our project of implementing of the network of European Blue Schools in Gdynia, Poland. The co-author and the mother of the whole project is Małgorzata Żywicka, who could not be here today, so I am speaking on her behalf as well. To give you a short introduction about our education center, we are part of the Gdynia Aquarium and part of National Marine Fisheries Research Institute. And both the aquarium and then the education center started purely from passion of people doing research on the ocean. So the first, there was the Fisheries Institute, and they had a collection of specimens and living marine animals that they wanted to show to people. So that's how the aquarium started 50 years ago. And then the aquarists, and mostly Mirosława Raczkowska, the lovely lady that you can see here in this picture from like, I don't know, mid 90s or early 90s. She used to work as an aquarist at the Gdynia Aquarium, but she had a lot of passion of sharing knowledge and showing students, you know, interesting things about marine life. And that's how the education center really started. And so it started in, well, it was opened officially in 1998 with only 150 students visiting the center that year, and we grew over the past 20 years to a really nice education center that can provide classes for up to 40,000 students a year. So the program is pretty large, and one of our flagship education programs that we provide for public schools in the region is the program called Meet the Baltic Sea. If you want to know more about this particular educational program, that you can look it up in a publication that we wrote a couple of years back. This was, so we have two branches of the Meet the Baltic Sea. One is directed to public schools in the city of Gdynia. So this is where the aquarium is located, and it is co-funded by the city. And the city of Sopot is right next to us. You've heard Tymon Zieliński. He lives in Sopot. He works in Sopot. That's a town adjacent to Gdynia, much smaller than Gdynia, but the city of Sopot is also co-financing this marine education program for students from public schools. Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, you know, we all had financial losses, including our cities. And the city of Gdynia said, well, we would still like to fund this project. We would like you to provide marine education classes for students from the schools in Gdynia, but we can give you less money, and we would like you to do something more. So we're educators. So when someone is saying like, can you do more for less? We're like, yes, we will, pick me. So we decided to introduce Blue Schools because that was a way for us to give the teachers and the students something more than just classes, but to give them the sort of bigger involvement and hands-on experience of running or learning about the ocean, and as we say in the Blue Schools, finding the blue. But this time in this program of Blue Schools, instead of just providing classes for students from as many schools and as we can find, we decided to recruit just few schools that are very excited and very interested in learning about the Baltic Sea, and work with them towards getting certified as a European Blue School. So the project is divided into, or was divided, well, the project is still ongoing. So it started in spring of 2021. And the first step for us at the aquarium was recruiting schools, or mostly teachers, to join the programs. And then in the second part of the project, students were attending workshops at the aquarium. They were both virtual and hands-on practical workshops with us, even in the field. And now their job is to brainstorm with teachers to find the blue, so to develop the blue projects for themselves. And in the fall of 2021, students will be completing the projects that they come up with, of course, in collaboration with us. And hopefully in the fall, they will be certified. So for us, it was mostly, like I said, conducted by the mother of the project, Małgorzata Żywicka. I was supporting her. So in the project, I was more the Blue Schools technical or sort of formal side of the project, whereas she is the education. And in the first part, when we were recruiting schools, we had a few meetings online, mostly explaining to teachers what the EU4Ocean coalition is about, and about different elements of the coalition, like the platform, the EU4Ocean forum, and the network of European Blue Schools. We even did a presentation on how to start your account with the Europe Webgate website to have an account so you can report your progress on the Blue Schools. And we were very positively surprised because teachers were very excited about this project to really get involved and do something more than just 45-minute classes, but to really get involved and their students, which is very very exciting to us, and just a very good sign that a lot of teachers want to bring ocean into their classrooms. And we were meeting in the evenings at 6 or 7 p.m. with the teachers, because it's so hard to find even half an hour during the day to meet with the teachers who are already so busy, and especially in the pandemic. So that was the first part. Like I said, those workshops with teachers to explain the idea behind the network of Blue Schools. And then we had the workshops. Like I said before, we started with online workshops mostly because it was May, and in May the schools were still not in regular session. All the classes were online. So luckily for us, we are already pretty well set up at the aquarium for teaching online classes. So the classes were there just to get the schools, and as you can see, we have students really different ages. Here is a group of students probably around 7 or 8 years old. And then we have, and they had classes online, but they were allowed to be in school, because in May, our government decided that younger students can go back to school and have classes in school, but they were not allowed to like travel or do field trips. Whereas older students, ages 10 and above, had to still learn online from their homes. So we provided classes for both the younger kids and the older kids in many different configurations, with all the students in their houses or students in their classrooms, just to give them this initial knowledge about the Baltic. So then they have some background to start thinking about the Blue project that they would like to develop. As COVID was sort of retreating with summer approaching, we were able to also accept students at the aquarium, so they had an opportunity to both see the exhibit and learn about the aquatic life in general. But we also organized a bunch of workshops, both in marine biology, mostly focusing on the Baltic Sea, as well as marine geology from the Baltic region, to, like I said, just give them an idea of what is interesting in the Baltic. Well, everything is, but so they have some background to start off with their projects and with their brainstorming sessions with their teachers, to know what more they want to explore and to find the blue. So right now we are, halfway through the project, and school starts on Wednesday, on September 1st in Poland. And in September, we are waiting for the schools to get back to us with the projects that they have and questions to us, because we will provide them with additional classes that they may want to have, or workshops that they may need to conduct their projects. So any advice that they want, or any connection to researchers in the area or in the Baltic, if they need some support to answer questions, maybe they will need some maps, to explore, and we already know where to direct them. Maybe they would like to explore some invasive alien species in the Baltic. So they will ask us questions, and we will provide them with more information how to conduct the projects that they come up with. So here is the 11 schools that are involved in the project. I was not translating names because it's just elementary schools from the city, but because the project is co-financed by the city is super supportive and is giving us a lot of publicity. All the schools are also regularly writing about the project on their websites, getting the students and even the parents more and more involved in the whole idea of becoming a blue school, and bringing this marine education and knowledge about the Baltic Sea into their schools. What we are very excited about in the fall, except for the project, is that part of this whole program is an outdoor promotion that we're going to have. So in collaboration with the city, we designed 5 big scale posters that talk about Baltic literacy or ocean literacy and blue schools in the city, and they will be in September throughout the city in what we call city lights, which are the sort of place for poster advertising on bus stops. They're very popular in Poland. This is the poster, one of the 5 posters that we've designed. I like it the most because the buildings, this is the building of the aquarium, and those are some characteristic buildings in the city. And here are the hens making waves, because small waves make a big ocean. So hopefully in 6 months, well, less than 6 months, the schools will be certified, and we will have 11 new blue schools in the city of Gdynia and in the Baltic region. And hopefully one day I will tell you more about the projects that the schools developed and how they were conducted. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer. Well, if there's no questions, then I guess, Avi, it's back to you.
Yes, indeed. So this is the last presentation of this workshop. Let me share. Et voilà. I would like to end and present the Network of European Blue Schools. This presentation has a few similar elements to the one I gave this morning, but I will focus most on conditions to become a European Blue School. I do recommend to look at a recording of this workshop from the morning, because there's so many interesting projects in there and activities that are happening in the Baltic. So please have a look. Well, to bring the school, the ocean on a long-term basis to the schools without changing every single one of the national curricula, the European Commission, DG Mare, has invested in setting up a network of European Blue Schools. They have a challenge for teachers to find the blue. The main foundation of a European Blue School is that students explore in a project on how they are connected to the ocean, the sea, no matter where they live. The ocean, it can be used in school in many different subjects and learning contexts, science, sports, STEM, economics, language, art, history, you name it. As you will discover, there's always a blue spot nearby connecting us to the ocean. Quickly, what we aim for, well, we aim for schools with their principals, students, and teachers to become agents of change and sustainability for the ocean. We also aim to let students work with real-life professionals that can support them in their project. So work with ocean experts. And also we want to have schools share experience and collaborate with each other on different levels within a country or with a country somewhere in Europe. Our learning model from a European Blue School. It is simple, yet it does have all the ingredients to make a change in the school and in the community. We expect from teachers and students to develop a project on the ocean, an ocean topic with interlinked activities. We mean with this that you don't simply give one lesson on the ocean, you really develop a project. How much time you spend on it, that is entirely up to you, can be a duration of 1 week, semester, 2 years, it doesn't matter. It can, of course, adding a project on top of your tight schedule is a challenge, especially in these times. So we encourage you to find as many synergies that are possible with your curriculum or with existing projects in the school or project weeks that the school is planning. The second condition or criteria is that we want students to produce an output from this project. So they are not simple passive consumers of knowledge with an output being some communication project, product, website, Instagram account, a booklet poster, environmental statement, or can be art, some song, graphic novel, or even a product that they manufacture. Anything is possible as an output. The third condition is that your product should involve all the students from your classroom. So we want the students also to feel empowered and responsible for the project, that they have a certain role in this project. So ideally, they are student-based projects and perhaps co-creation project. Students who are engaged as from the first steps in the project design, they get a choice in the topic or the activities or any other aspect of the project, makes them show some greater enthusiasm and concentration on assigned tasks. All projects should be developed with the help of an external partner of the school. That can be an NGO, visitor center, aquarium, scientist, university. We have seen many ideas already today of people to contact, but also people from the maritime sector, the municipalities, or even a local library, a restaurant, anything, any partner is possible. These partners, they're really crucial for the success of the project because they share their knowledge, their skills. They can even provide resources for you, activities. So with this partner, you get to know the topic pretty well, can generate ideas together with them or obtain funds. It's also important. So you can totally collaborate with the local community, or you can use them to disseminate the results of the project. So that's the fifth criteria, is that your project should be shared with the community. This can be locally, nationally, on level of the school with the parents. You can contact the local newspaper or set up a website. Anything is also possible, to even large things. So do an exhibition perhaps, or be part of a public event. So if your project answers to these 5 criteria, you obtain the certification of a European Blue School. The certification is of value for the school to get some international visibility for the school, for the project that it has supported. It's also value for a teacher to get some recognition for the hard work you put in there, which is often not seen. And lastly, it is of value for the students. It's a kind of personal accomplishment for the project, and it can spark an interest in the future blue career, or is a great asset on their CV. There are also more advanced blue projects, as you can see in the optional criteria. Teachers, these are optional, so not compulsory, but if you want to take your project to the next level, these are some ideas on how to do that. Firstly, you can offer your students authentic learning experiences. So you take them out to the sea or to the river, or you work on real life issues. It can be, your project can be multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary, combining different school subjects. Oceanography is by nature a multidisciplinary field. You need to understand how the water moves and flows to understand the patterns you see in chemistry and biology. It's like a giant puzzle: physics, biology, geology, chemistry, technology, human activities, all affect each other. So you perhaps mobilize more than one classroom in your school. One class participating is certainly enough to obtain the certificate, but you can do more and see if you can work with classes from the same age level or from other grades. Schools can tackle issues that appeal to the entire school, of course, such as litter or making the school menu more sustainable. Fourth, schools can explore the land-sea connection. Well, the coast is the ideal environment for a project. Many other sites situated inland, such as rivers or scientific lab somewhere, natural history museum, fish restaurant, aquaculture facility, we're all able to support a good project. You can also opt to collaborate with a school from the coast if you're from the mountains, or the other way around, or you can share results of, and this way you can share results on, let's say, field work that you compare with the different aspects of each region, and spread more awareness at the coast from inland communities and other way around. So finally, a project always has some regional and a European dimension. So we encourage teachers and students to explore how their local situation is connected to the wider European scale. This can be done via the Atlas, of course, very visible tool for this, but also by establishing a connection to a school in another country at another sea basin. So quickly, why become a blue school? When you teach about the ocean, you're working on environmental education, where you raise awareness of issues impacting the ocean and teach how you can improve and sustain it. You're also working on education for sustainable development, where you show your students how their actions can help to achieve SDGs by making ocean-friendly choices and taking action for ocean-related issues. And you're taking your students outside the school walls help them build a personal connection to the sea. You're working project-based, so you're not limited to the curriculum topics, and you can work with your students on real-life topics that they can relate to. So we also provide your students with opportunities to get to know ocean professionals and possible careers, and you can get a certification for this. We have developed a handbook for teachers with many examples of projects that have been developed by teachers or by scientists. There is a step-by-step guide taking you through all the criteria I just talked about. So all the schools that have received a certification, they have their own web page at the Maritime Forum website. So here is again the map you have seen already with Natalie. And we hope that in the future on this map we'll have plenty more schools from the Baltic. So briefly, the network. In the network, you're also connected to the EU4Ocean platform members who have many resources and activities and could be a potential partner in your project. Voila. So you can already apply to become a Blue School. You can submit by 15th of December for this first semester, and then we'll open another call for the second semester. Applying is very simple process. You fill in a pretty simple application form. We do not ask many administrative work from you to apply. And when we accept your proposal, you will get the certification, and you will also get then your own, you can create your own webpage on the Maritime Forum. Voilà. Thank you very much. So, stop sharing. If you have any questions for me on this, please let me know. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we are at the end of this workshop, Dominica. Yeah.
I think so. It's 4:45 on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Everyone is at the end of this workshop. No, thank you so much. It was, to me, a very informative workshop, and I hope the rest of the participants also enjoyed it, and we will have a lot of new Blue Schools at the end of the year in the Baltic region using the maps and the Virtue projects and many others.
Yeah, and we will share this recording to as many people as possible. So this workshop has a wider range.
Yes.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us, and I hope to meet you in the future somewhere.
Thank you very much. And yes, if you have any questions later on, you can email us, or I can also provide my email, my MC email in the chat box. And so if you have any further questions about Blue Schools or why teach about the Baltic or anything, please don't hesitate to get in touch with Evie or me. We'll be happy to help.
A big thank you again to all the speakers who are still here, and thank you all for taking the time to follow this workshop today. Well,
Thank you.
I wish you a very nice evening and a great weekend.
Yes.
Same to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Do you want to stay a couple minutes longer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just thank you for the
Mhm.
workshop. I think it was nice.
It was a very well workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually, can we stop recording?
Oh, yeah. Is in charge of
Gilles?
the recording. They all disappeared.
Yeah, Gilles?
They're all getting coffee.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.